Welcome back, Cracked fans, to another edition of the Cracked Interviews podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there. Hopefully you enjoyed a very festive holiday season, end of year with your families, with your friends, whatever it is you enjoy doing to bring in the new year. Obviously, here at Cracked Racquets, we love talking tennis, and so that is what we are going to be doing at this portion of the year. And there is no friend or family member I would rather do a Cracked interview with than the forefather of the college tennis ranks formula, a man whose predictions are never far from the listed UTR, and of course one of the many dames to root for the Liberty Flames, Chris Halliors, who's joining us on tonight's Cracked Interviews podcast. Chris, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be here, Alex, as always.
Word on the street is you had a 4:30 late night last night?
Oh, it's rough. You know, us old guys, it's. I wish I could say I was out drinking, but yeah, you know, just pounding away in front of the computer all night. What a night.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually what they expect old guys to be doing. You know, forefather of the formula and all. We're going to say you were working on that formula all night, which, again, we're working on it all because we know, listeners, you guys are ready for the action in 2020, and obviously there's so much tennis about to get underway from all of the pro stuff in Australia, ATP and WTA-wise. But more importantly, we've got a college tennis season right upon us, and as you listeners know, we have been doing our college contender series here on the Cracked Interviews podcast, as well as on the Mini Break podcast, breaking down the year-end top 10 men's teams from 2019, previewing how they are going to look in 2020. The most fun part of this exercise on the Cracked Interviews podcast, and it's a testament, Chris, to all of the hard work you put in, all of the hard work our team here at Cracked Racquets has done, that all of these head coaches of the top 10 teams have been willing to come on the podcast to discuss their teams, have some fun with us, entertain our crazy ideas. And obviously today, Chris, we had a blast of an interview with Ohio State head coach Ty Tucker, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's coach is great, and for those that really follow the game, they'll get some of the subtle, maybe not so subtle things he throws in. But yeah, it was a blast.
I think what we both learned, the theme is you want guys who love tennis, who love being out there, right? They want to make it the most fun part of their day is playing tennis. That is Coach Tucker's message. And, of course, I mean, it's his, I think, third time now on the podcast. He's our most listened to interview we ever did, the three-parter we did when he was driving back from NCAAs in 2017. I mean, what a character, a guy who will hold no shots back. He's going to tell you what he thinks, true, pros and cons. I mean, it's just, again, we've mentioned this each and every time, but you get why the Brian Sheltons, the Andreas Pedrosos, the Brian Bolins, the Ty Tuckers of the world are the people steering these top college tennis programs, because these are the best in the business coaching-wise.
Oh, no doubt. And for a guy that's, for a Michigan guy to say that he would want his kids to go play for Ohio State, he's got to be doing something right.
Counterpoint. I'm hoping Cracked Racquets takes off to where I can become a huge Michigan donor. It becomes the Alex Gruskin Michigan head tennis coach, and then I can be like, Coach, name the number. You're coming to blue. Just name it. And
that number's not out there.
Certainly, and that is not the topic we have today, but Coach Tucker, so kind to talk about all of the many things, his team ending last year after being the national indoor champs, rolling through the regular season, coming off of that quarterfinal loss to UNC, how they rebound from a moment like that after you lose players of the caliber of a Martin Joyce, a Hunter Tubert, and obviously their number one singles player, J.J. Wolf, who's now gone pro, and, J.J., no one's going to deny that's a pro talent, so we all understand why he forewent his last season, but, Chris, in terms of the roster construction, this is a really interesting team heading into the year, right?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, obviously they lose several guys, really 4 guys really from last year, but they bring in a whole bunch of new freshmen and really, really talented freshmen. So yeah, I mean, they're still one of the top contenders. It's going to be fun to see. It's always fun to see the teams that have a lot of new players, especially ones that have a lot of expectations on them. These guys are still, they should still be the top team in the Big Ten and should still be contending. And, it'll be good to see how the season starts, how it gets off to a start for them.
Absolutely, and we get into that. We talk about, Chris, maybe the best question you've ever asked, at least on mic, about, the hour restrictions and how that affects how you approach coaching. All of the many things you want to hear about when you're talking to a coach with the experience level of Ty Tucker. And, of course, we end with a very conversation on the best of the decade, best teams in the 2010s, the usual Michigas we like to run our coaches through at the end. But with that in mind, enjoy Chris and my conversation with Ohio State men's tennis head coach Ty Tucker. Joining us now on the Cracked Interviews podcast with 14 straight Big Ten titles and 2 national indoor crowns to his name, there's no doubt that today's guest will go straight into the Buckeye Hall of Fame, and that he's achieved all of his success while owning only 2 pairs of sweatpants is a testament to the power of his inspirational coaching rants. Even though this past decade he beat my Wolverines down like a it will always be my pleasure to be joined by Ohio State head coach Ty Tucker. Coach, welcome back to the Cracked Interviews podcast.
It's pretty good. That's a pretty good intro. Not bad. Not bad.
Only the best poems for the best, Coach.
You know, wow. Let's get it going.
Yeah, of course, and I want to say Happy New Year to you and all of your Buckeye program. I know, as we were talking about before we started, it's been 2 days since that semifinal loss. Your thoughts on, have you recovered? All is well in the Tucker household?
It obviously still stings because a lifelong Buckeye, played at Ohio State, coached at Ohio State. Ohio State's where I want to be. So Ohio State football means a lot to me. So to take the 4th L to Clemson and it was tough to swallow, but at the end of the day, we didn't get a lot of stuff that went right, but I just think there's been a little bit on the sports shows, just too much complaining because, people talking about the interception, the fumble and the return. But I thought it was the most high quality game I've seen in a couple years. I just, the hitting on both sides, the injuries, the people playing hurt, the play calling, it was, I thought, some of those calls and some of the stuff that went on, the targeting and things like that is kind of overshadowed maybe the best game I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, sure, I'm a little bit biased, but I thought that was a whale of a game.
Absolutely. I'm convinced that if Olave holds on to his route, that he catches that ball from Fields, because Fields threw a couple lasers in that game. There was the non-touchdown catch to Mack in the back of the end zone where he went right over the safety's head. I mean, Justin Fields is a baller.
I mean, I got to be honest. I thought we're up 7-0. We have all the tempo. We've got everything going right. We've got them on their heels. They're on skates. We're just going through them. We throw that pass to Garrett Wilson. He goes up about 5-6 feet to get it. They call it incomplete, said he was out of bounds. Then we got that play off, and Dobbins was out in the flat getting ready to score a touchdown. And then the booth called for the replay of the Garrett Wilson catch. And I thought we had a touchdown right there to go up 14-0. And then they came back and said Garrett Wilson actually had caught the ball. And then we kind of stalled in the red zone 3 times in a row.
Yeah, that'll do it. I mean, 3 points isn't 7, absolutely. And Dobbins drops the screen pass. That was a clear touchdown if he holds on to that one. I mean, look, 14 in 1 year, college football playoff semifinals, obviously a great year. I also have a take that Ryan Day looks like the Batman villain, the Penguin. I don't know if you guys are Batman fans, but to me, I just see the striking similarities. But
I'm not into that one. I got to be honest with you. I don't know what that means, but I'm not.
He's got a little Danny DeVito streak to him, Coach. That's what I'm trying to say.
Again, he's not 4'2".
Yeah.
And I don't see it. And he's not married to the bartender from Cheers.
Not yet, Coach, but once you start getting
there's still time. He's only 40. I get it.
Absolutely. And look, we could talk. I feel like when I sent you that text of Ohio State was so good, in my head, did I think it might reverse jinx them? Absolutely.
That was good effort by you. Good effort.
Yeah.
But
hard.
But I honestly, I thought the Buckeyes should have been one. People are going to yell. Joe Burrow grew up 40 miles from where I grew up in Zanesville, Ohio, and my high school football team played as a couple. So I've been singing Joe Burrow's praises for years. But I got to be honest. I thought we deserved the 1 seed. I think, Penn State thinks they're our rival. I think Wisconsin thinks they're our rival. And, of course, Michigan is our rival. And but in football, Wisconsin thinks it's them since Michigan's been a little bit average of late. And Penn State thinks it's them. And, we had 3 hard-hitting games in a row, back to back to back. I mean, back to back to back. And we came through with 10-point victory in all of them or more, and double digit. And, I thought, playing 3 rivalry games right in a row and, getting the crap kicked out of us. I mean, I thought we deserved that 1 seed, and chance to play Oklahoma would have obviously been what the doctor ordered after you look at the Oklahoma LSU game. But gee, criminy, I thought we got robbed a little bit right there, because that's pretty tough. I mean, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan, back to back to back. I mean, that's rough.
Yeah, that's as difficult as it gets. And, of course, when you go up against a Trevor Lawrence, who was the J.J. Wolf of college football this year, it's going to be difficult. I mean, champions bring their A game. To beat a champ, you got to knock them off. And, obviously, stupid quote, but Coach Dabo Swinney said, they could prepare for what we do, but they can't prepare for who we are. And that showed. It was, as you mentioned, an outstanding game. And I threw in the JJ names to try and do some sort of transition, not as smooth as I would have liked, but obviously for you guys,
again you missed. Again, you missed. But I'll be honest, I'm not shocked. But you missed.
Yeah, I missed like those referees missed, or whoever the running back was, being down on that 4th and inches in overtime, Coach. But all of that to be said, obviously for you guys in 2019, you're coming off of a tremendous season, 32-3, national indoor champions. As you head into the 2020 dual match season, I know you guys have had a fall already session for this year that we'll talk about in a little bit. But how are you feeling about the Buckeyes heading into the next decade?
I mean, the Buckeyes, we're talking Buckeye tennis right now, aren't we?
Of course.
Yeah. I think great coaching out there. I think since I've been coaching, a head coach in major college tennis now for 21, 22 years as a head coach, I think the coaching's picked up, 4 or 5 times. So, I'm not, downplaying anybody from the past, but I think, used to be you might be able to pick up a rock and you find a player and be the only guy looking at that player. But nowadays, you pick up a rock and there's 13 coaches crawling out from underneath it. So I think there's, great coaching, great assistant coaching, because the money is starting to get better and better in the assistant coaching part of the game. So I think you're getting a lot of guys who can make a living being an assistant coach, and it's a pretty nice job. And I think college tennis is in a good place as far as parity and strength, and it's really nice to see. It's really nice to see, because, like I said, in the past 21 years, I mean, every Power 5 team, so many teams are pretty darn good.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, you talk about that money flowing in. We've mentioned this before. So many top programs now are fortunate enough to host challenger events, future events. And for you guys, I know you guys, I think, have 3 challengers now in Columbus throughout the year. How valuable is that for your program, not only to give your own team members chances to dabble in the professional tour, but to see all of these talented players come to Columbus and have your team see the level of tennis at the challenger level? How helpful is that to your program?
It's very helpful. It gets a chance, but what people don't realize is, it's a whale of an advantage for the guys on your team, because they, playing against a guy in the first round that's been in town for 24 hours and maybe hit for an hour and a half on courts that you've had thousands of hours of practice on. So, you really get a very good opportunity as some of these good players that deserve to have some wild cards in the challengers to get a real significant win, a top 250 win, which is going to make them better that day. You could practice for 100 hours, but you beat a man 250 in the world, you're going to be better right now. So, and I think it's not really that much of an upset when a J.J. Wolf or a John McNally or a Cannon Kingsley are playing a Torpegard or playing a guy 260 in the world who's just flown in from Davis Cup in Guam or something. So, it's nice on that. Now, on the other end of the coin, it can get a bit tricky, because guys can do too well, and then they can start getting that ATP ranking, and there can be some pull for them to turn pro. And so you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, so Coach, how about, so we look at the team last year and then coming into this year. So obviously everybody knows that JJ's out now playing on the pro tour, but you also lose Martin Joyce and Hunter Tubert that were, stalwarts there for you that have to be, a big hit. But then at the same time, you bring in a huge freshman talented class. So why don't you talk about, what it's like having to move on with the 3 guys leaving and then the guys you've got coming in?
J.J. Wolf, great player, Ohio guy, wanted to be a Buckeye, lucky to have him, really did well and deserved to get the opportunity he got to be a professional player and sign a contract. And, so was happy for J.J. Martin Joyce and Hunter Tubert, going to miss those guys. Great people. Still see Tubert a good bit. Martin Joyce is actually the volunteer assistant at Texas, so we'll see him up in Columbus on February 1st or 2nd when we play the Longhorns. But, it's tough. But, to be honest, Cannon Kingsley's, he's a legitimate, he might be ranked 15 in the country after one fall. So he's a legitimate top 20 in the country college tennis player. And we're hoping he's going to be a legitimate top 8 in the country college player in Columbus. He had a nice win in the Challenger early on, played Kwiatkowski to a tight match as well. In a Challenger we had back in September, did well at the 15K. We've got Justin Boulay, who's, mother was a top 20 in the world women's professional tennis player, and he's beaten Liam Draxel 2 times in the past month, and Draxel very well could have have a claim at being the best freshman in the nation. So those 2 guys have really shown some great tennis for, Boulay just turned 18 maybe in November or the end of October, and, Kingsley semifinal at the U.S. Open Juniors. So those 2 guys doing well, and Robert Cash being ranked 2 in the country in doubles with John McNally after one fall season is, a pretty good showing for him as well. So we're feeling pretty good with that, but like we said, they're freshmen, and winning on the road, winning in some neutral environments is a little more difficult than winning at home. So,
Sure. No, certainly, Coach, and I wanted to say, in losing JJ and Martin, that was the one doubles team, and I believe they went something pretty ridiculous last year, like 17-4, and then obviously McNally and Tubert, I think, went 21-1 at 3 doubles. So for you, as you work through all of the talent, as you try to figure out what combinations work, what don't work, is that what you use this fall for? Obviously, Cash and McNally seem to be working out just fine, but will you still play around with the combinations given that it's such a young team this year?
Darn good question, right? Obviously, we've got 2 sets of doubles combinations that we have in our mind right now that we're going to use throughout the season, and hope that we're not going to have to adjust from the 5 teams that we have playing right now. So it's there's obviously some strategy in the doubles, and it's very tricky because it lasts about 25 minutes, so you've got to have good teams and disciplined players. But we feel okay with the doubles, but again, having Hunter Tubert, John McNally locked down that 3-hole, and JJ and Joyce did a pretty good job. But Cobalt and Seelig were very, very good themselves. I think they went on a 10 or 11 match win streak at one point. So, we've got some work to do, but I feel like we have some pretty good pieces in the doubles, and knock on wood, we'll be able to get a doubles point or 2.
You mentioned the difference between the falls and the dual match environment. How much weight do you put in those fall results? Because obviously, 13-2 for Cash and McNally, they were playing the best in the country. That stands out. But you've got other partnerings, Boulez and Trotter, and Andrew and Trotter, and I'm not even going to try and say Andrew's last name because I'll butcher it, but Siebert and Waridi. Is despite seeing the many things, I know you guys were so good to start the year last year through the indoors, undefeated till you went to Texas without JJ. But is this season, it's a different team. There's a lot of new faces. So will your approach to the beginning of the dual match season be different?
Yeah, we've got, the thing that we have going for us is got a pretty tough home schedule, and with these young guys, they need some more matches at home, and less on the road, and we have that for them. And obviously, we thought that JJ would be back, but it just played itself the way that we pretty much needed it with Texas, Texas A&M, USC, Arizona State, to name a few that are coming to Columbus. It's we're lucky in that respect that we are these guys are going to get some good opportunities at home before having to go on the road at Georgia, which is always a tough environment, and going to Stanford. So those are only two true road matches right away. So, in the first 2 months, obviously we hope to make the final 16 of the NCAA tournament, which would be in Wisconsin, and we know that facility pretty well. But I think Notre Dame and Georgia and Stanford are the only places we go out of conference this year on the road. So I think that we have a shot being at home and quite possibly having 3, possibly 4 freshmen playing in the lineup. Nothing's going to be easy, but they're very quality. Like I said, I believe Kingsley and Boulay to both be top 15, top 20 players in the country right now today, to go along with Seelig and McNally. So I don't think anybody's having a bake sale for us.
Yeah. So you talk about that schedule, Coach, and I look at it, and as you said, you start off with it's all home matches leading up to indoors, and then you go to Notre Dame, and then your first away match that would appear in all likelihood to be an outdoor match, and that's at Georgia. Is there any chance to get, do you use leading up to that any chance you get to kind of practice outdoors to get out there, or do you not put that much stock in getting time outdoors, seeing that you'll have a good quality match outdoors come in?
Yeah, we get some time. We usually go down in the beginning of January down to Delray Beach, Florida, and practice for 4 or 5 days, try to get some there. Obviously, we get to Georgia a couple days early, practice there, and then from Georgia fly straight to Stanford. So, we know we know that it's a trap match because it's tough. They've got great teams, and we've been indoors for a while, but it's what you have to do. It's no real difference than going to Texas and Texas A&M last year. After being indoors all that time, it's not going to be easy, but it's never easy. But a chance to play the best, that's you're going to get better, and want to have an opportunity to play some big time matches and give these guys that opportunity to think back for years to come. We played a real schedule and played year in and year out. We're having 5-6 matches with top 10 teams is pretty cool.
Without question. One guy that I think on the team that's got to be looking forward to that Georgia match, because if my predictions are accurate, it'll be a good rematch, and that is John, I think, will get a redemption match against Henning after the All-American match.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's pretty good, and everyone's there, and you got to bring it day in and day out. You've got to bring the focus, and you've got to get up for every match. But obviously another tricky match. I'm sure John would probably rather play McGinn outdoors in Oklahoma than in front of 3,000 people yelling at him in Athens. But they're not going to play that match in Tulsa, so we're going to have to go to Athens. And I mean, everybody's good. It's what I've said. I mean, it's just. The margins are thin. People don't realize Drew's points. I mean, G-many, cry-many. 30 all points are huge nowadays. And anything can happen. I just feel college tennis, there's parity. I mean, I just honestly think so many teams are darn good. And I think this year you've got 3 or 4 teams that might on paper stick out a little more than some other teams, but I'm not so sure there's much separation from 4 to 20.
No, I agree there. So I got one follow up from earlier. You were talking about some of the new guys, and I look at the fall results and you were talking about Boulay beating Draxel twice in the last month. I'm kind of wondering if amongst the guys, Cannon played him earlier and went like 6-6 at the U.S. Open Juniors. And then Boulay gave him 6 games total in 2 matches. Is he giving Cannon a little grief over that one?
I mean, he isn't much of that guy. You know, he's chasing Cannon. Boulay was injured for a while. He won the Canadian Championships, I think, 2018, and he was up to 540 ATP. And it's like nobody even knew. You know, but he goes into the fall season. They don't even rank him as one of the 10 best freshmen. So I think that gave him a little bit of motivation. Plus, he knew, you know, he's going to get a chance to play up in the lineup. He can't swing and miss too much because, you know, people are going to say, no, he can't play above McNally. No, he can't play above Seelig. No, he can't play above Kingsley. So, you know, he knew that he had some work to do if he wanted to be up there to where in the lineup to where he thought he belonged, because we thought he belonged there. I mean, I thought that guy's one of the most talented tennis players I've ever seen. Left-handed, 5'11", 6 foot, arm like JJ. I mean, the ball comes off it fast, 130-mile-an-hour serve. I mean, that guy's a tennis player, and you know, it's you know, his mom was top 20 in the world. His dad was a coach, and another tennis player, Cannon Kingsley. I mean, those guys are tennis players. And Robert Cash is getting better, and he's a doubles player. I mean, Robert Cash is a darn good doubles player, and of course, McNally's good, Seelig's good. James Trotter's had a great fall. Who's you know, starting to come in, and you know, I think he's up to 40 in the country in college right now, Trotter. And, you know, him playing position 5 and 6, you know, I think if everything goes well, that we can get better and better. You know, right now we've been trying to redshirt J.J. Mercer, who's come in and done pretty good. He was a very good American top-ranked junior. Andrew Letshonik, who had 2 knee surgeries and was a darn good 15-year-old tennis player and basically didn't play for 2 years in juniors. Well, he traveled around with a 46-pound knee brace on. We finally got rid of the knee brace, and that guy's had a whale of a fall. And I mean, people are, like you said, you can't even pronounce his name. I don't think anybody knows who he is. But he's pretty darn good. He's getting better. I'm telling you, he just lost to Seelig in the finals of a money tournament in Philadelphia last night, and you know, he had a couple set points in the first set, and this guy's, you know, I tell you what, he hate me to say this, but another year he's going to be there because he so badly wants to be there now. But come on, Andrew, keep fighting.
And, you know, Coach, I feel like I'm never going to shake my Wolverine label with you, but you can ask well, you can ask Chris because I watch, they should sponsor us at this point, but livestream.com/ATP. I was watching Boulay play his match in Columbus, and I text Chris, and I go, Tucker got another one. I'm like, this kid is just quintessential Ohio State indoors. He's going to hit so big. I think I watched his match versus Arcanata, that 6-6 win he had in the first round. And yeah, I mean, all of these talented kids, you know, Cash and Mercer, that was as good of a junior doubles team as you'll have through the junior ranks. They played together a bunch and had a ton of success whenever they did. But one thing I would say that's different about your team this year, and, you know, not that, you know, McNally and Seelig aren't exceptional players, as you mentioned, they're both top 40 already, but they're, you know, Torp was the senior for so long. Before him, it was Rolla. Before him, it was Buchanan. And on this year's team, there really aren't too many upperclassmen. I think Seelig is the only, you know, senior by delegation. There may be some redshirt juniors, but him and John really the elder statesmen of the team this year. How have they adapted to that leadership role that comes with being an upperclassman?
I mean, they're still trying to they're still trying to do it. And every day we ask them, you know, I mean, what you can be, what everybody can do for this team is practice like you are a captain. And, you know, that's what we've tried to do is, you know, why not? We've only got 10, 12 guys on a team. Why can't we all be captains? Why can't you hold yourself to the level every day? Why can't this be the fun part of the day where you come out, you play tennis with a smile on your face for 2 hours and 15 minutes and run through a wall laughing and giggling and having a good time? And, you know, that's what we look for from a captain and what we look for day in and day out in practice. And, you know, just too many times, you know, you got to stay away from those guys where tennis isn't the fun part of their day. And, right now it's been great. It could be the fresh faces and having 5 freshmen on this year's team, and but you know what? It's absolutely been great because you get a lot of fresh faces wanting to get better, wanting to do what the coach wants them to do. Now, obviously, that can change after a year. These guys can have enough of you or whatever happens. But right now, it's been a good time, practicing with these guys day in and day out. And you say stuff like Torpegard or JJ, but why couldn't Cannon Kingsley? I mean, semifinalist at the U.S. Open. Why couldn't he? Play top 8 in the country in college tennis. I mean, he really wants to be good. He chases it. He left school at December 16th, 17th after a few days of practicing here. Went to the USTA, played in that wild card playoff, did well down there. Why couldn't Boulay? Why couldn't McNally? Why couldn't Seelig? I mean, we've been fortunate enough to have guys that have locked down the number 1 spot, and we feel that we've got 4 guys that if they really want it, they could step up and have a good run at the number 1 spot.
That's a good bit on the top 4. So now I have to ask a question, Coach, and Gruskin's way too afraid of you to ask this question. I'm just fully aware that you could squash me and it wouldn't even be any fun, so I'll ask anyway. Siebert, is he going to be listed in the lineup, and is he going to play?
Gosh, I forgot about Tim. Tim's done a good job. I mean, Tim, I feel bad for Tim. He probably came to school a year or 2 early. Most of the international guys, 18, 19, when they show up in America and for college. And Tim was 17 years old. So, I think Tim's like 19 right now, or just turning 20, and he's already into his junior year. And, it's like Torpegard. I don't think he left college until 23 and a half. And, here's Tim going to leave at 21. And, it's been a tough transition for Tim. And but he's made a pretty good jump. He's definitely a guy that in the conversation and actually should be starting on our team this year. But he'll be listed somewhere. Will he be listed at 4 against Wake Forest? I don't know.
I love it, Coach.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I mean, for you, again, you talk about 1 through 4, but your team really goes, you could argue, 9, 10 deep this year. And I'm curious from you, from a head coaching perspective, when you and Kronagi and Dave Schilling get together, is it more difficult when you have 10 guys who all have a legitimate claim to starting than it is when you have, say, 6, 7, 8? Like last year, Tubert at 6, that's as close to a lock as you're going to have. How much more difficult is it for you coaches when you have legitimately 9 to 10 guys who could all start in many college lineups?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kind of lot Tubert was. That was his first year of playing singles, and he was a senior. But he got better and better, and was a tough guy. But I just think it shakes itself out. You have lots of time to show what you're about. You have lots of time to show what you're doing in the summer times and what your ranking is. And with UTR, there's rankings everywhere. So I think the guys know where they're at, and I think the young guys are trying to get better and better and better and better and better every day out there. They're trying to get a little bit better, but I think it will be like it is every year, where you're using 8 guys. I mean, I don't know if you remember last year, Trotter and Seelig were undefeated. I think they went to the finals of a 25K future. They are Trotter and Cobelt and Trotter.
Trotter.
Trotter started the year and were 8-0. Played Virginia in the quarterfinals of the National Indoors. Nakashima thumped them. That was the first loss. They were like 8 or 9-0. We took Trotter out of the lineup because he played did what we didn't want him to do in the first 5 minutes of the match.
I was there, Coach. I remember the teardown.
I remember Gruskin's rant about look at how coaches are getting on Trotter. Oh my God.
I mean, and that was the last you saw Trotter till Texas. That was the last you saw Trotter till Texas. And then he came out, and when he came back, he got that win over Marks right away. But we didn't play him again until then. But Seelig and Cobelt, I think, went up undefeated up to that point.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, 22-6 on the year. It's crazy. Yeah.
And so, it's tough. Same thing happened to Tubert early on. We liked Tubert. He double faulted a couple times against Purdue, missing overhead his freshman year. Didn't see the lineup the rest of the year. And it's just, it's tough. It's weird how things work. But I guess that's probably the downside to having 8 guys that are just right there, fighting for 6 spots is, are you best off to let them play and not feel the pressure and let them know even if you have a bad day, you're still going to get another go around, buddy, and, shake their hand and hug them? Or are you best to let them know that if you make mental mistakes and things like that, you're going to find yourself out of the lineup? Because, it's tough to play 6 singles, but it was a lot tougher 20 years ago in indoor tennis when everybody only had 4 courts and the 6th guy was going out there with the match on the line and having to play 2.5 hours with the match on the line instead of 20 minutes.
No, absolutely.
A lot tougher.
No, you can ask Chris. I said I doubt Tucker will still be coaching if I can ever find someone to have kids with me. But I was like, but that's who my kids are playing for. I want them reamed out like Coach Tucker just did there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it is. You spend a lot of time with these guys, and we were out there today. Guys were out there in voluntary practice, and I think most of these guys they want the discipline and they want the love and they want someone that spends a lot of time with them. And we spend a lot of time together, and you're tough on them, but they run through a wall. And they like to play tennis, and that's what I need. Guys, tennis is the fun part of their day.
So you bringing that up brings up a good follow-up that when we were talking to Coach Shelton, he, one of the points he brought up is, the restrictions that a lot of these kids, when you get some of these top players, right, you've got guys that are clearly capable of moving on to pro careers, as does he, that, when they start to weigh what they can do, when you go pro, you can play as much as you want. You come to college, and now all of a sudden you've got some of these, you've got times where you're completely off. You've got 8-hour weeks, and then you've got the 20-hour weeks. Do you think that's something that that needs to change, or do you like it the way it is? What are your thoughts on that?
I just think it's sad for some freshmen because you come into college and you're going to a great program and a top 10, top 12, top 15 team, and everybody talks about the student athlete experience and the student athlete welfare and everything that what the rules are about and how we're getting time trimmed away from us because the kids have a voice and they get a vote, and most kids don't want to play so much tennis in the fall season and things like that. But I tell you, the number one thing for student athlete welfare, student athlete experience is being in the starting lineup. And right now these kids, they come in August 15th, and by January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, whenever you start your practice, in that time frame, they've been able to have 44 days with their coach for 3 hours a day. That's it. So all of a sudden, August, September, October, November, December, 5 months, and they've come in, and how are they going to be able to grasp the system, anything that's going on when they've only been given 44 days?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, you do that math, right? You say 44 days at 3 hours a day, right? That's just over 120 hours. So for the working folks, right? That's like working with someone for 3 weeks and going, "Yep, I know exactly what we're doing now," right?
Right. So now all of a sudden you get out and you sit and you're sitting there watching, and it's no fun because all of these guys have had their little entourages going to the junior tournaments. They all are top 20 in the nation in juniors if they're coming into a top 15 program with a legitimate shot to start as a freshman, and then it's tough for them to get acclimated. It's tough for them to make the jump in the game to be ready for doubles when they only get 44 days with their college coach. Yeah. And, so that leads to a bad experience. Sitting on the bench leads to a bad student-athlete experience.
One can only imagine. And if you'll indulge me, allow me to compliment you, I think one of the staples of Ohio State tennis during your tenure has been the development that so many of these players undergo from, the Cobelt, Peter Cobelt, who got so good by the end of his time, or even players like Hunter Tubert, who was just a rock solid at 6 come the end of his time and just a staple in the doubles lineup. I've noticed that you are not afraid to utilize the red shirt, and I'm curious, why is the red shirt an effective tool for you and something you seem to turn to for some of these players.
I mean, most of these guys, I mean, you look at football, you look at basketball, I mean, most of these guys are, you know, obviously it's no secret you're going to be better at 23 than you're at 18, and you're going to have a career. And I just honestly believe that, you know, if you're not ready to start right away and make a difference, I mean, what's wrong? I mean, most of these colleges are giving free summer school for their, you know, student athletes. If you go to Ohio State and you're on scholarship, any amount of scholarship, you get summer school for free, and all of a sudden you can graduate in 3 years in a semester, and be well in the way to having an MBA, being in a master's program by the time you're done with your 5th year. I mean, there's just so much opportunity nowadays. And but I just think the red shirt is so very important for a lot of these guys. It gets them out there. It gives them 12, 15 months before they're needed, and all of a sudden, you know, they don't have to show you for 15 months what they have. Sometimes if a guy shows you in the first 2 months what he has at the All-Americans or at the regionals, and he hasn't had but 18 days to practice with you, sometimes the coach looks at him and gets a little bit down on him and maybe gets put in the doghouse with, you know, in the first 4 or 5 weeks of school when he really hasn't had a chance to acclimate. So I think, you know, it helps these guys, give them a little more belief. Hey, I can get there. I can do this. And, you know, why wouldn't you want them? They're going to be so much physically stronger at 21, 22, and 23 years old that it would only, I mean, it's a very athletic sport. It would only stand to reason that, you know, if you're at Ohio State, you're getting the access to some of the best strength coaches in the world, and you're getting access to good tennis coaches, and you're getting access to everything that they have, and nutrition and everything that they have, that 2 or 3 years in, you'd be much better than you were coming in.
Yeah, I think case in point could be Kyle Seelig, right? Who goes last year 27-8 overall, but 18-5 in the dual match season. Contributed at 2 doubles with both Trotter and Cobelt throughout the year, and yeah, clearly that development it works. And you mentioned earlier, you know, it's a long season, right? You're with these guys, you know, for a year from the fall through the dual match, and some of them don't want them to burn out at any point. I'm curious for you because, you know, last year you guys started out so hot, again undefeated through that Texas A&M match. You win the national indoors. Is burnout throughout the year? How do you manage, you know, to ensure that players stay fresh, to make sure that that love of the game is still there throughout the 12-month season?
I mean, you've got to get guys. Tennis is a big part of it. Tennis is the fun part of the day. I mean, I can't say it more than that. I mean, I've already said it to you 7 times today. You're obviously not listening. I mean, it's just you get guys at tennis. I mean, you spend the time recruiting. You're looking for guys at tennis where they want to play 11 months a year at tennis, where they don't want to go home and be a lifeguard in the summer and sit at the pool and hang out with their boys and have a good time. They want to be out there chasing the tennis. It's got to be a fun part of the day. It's got to be what you look forward to. It's got to be every bit what some people look forward to when they hook up the headphones and start playing Fortnite. It's got to mean you got to like it. You gotta like it. And if you like tennis, you're going to be pretty darn good. If you come to Ohio State, if you like tennis,
I can't believe you referenced Fortnite, Coach. Look at you. That must play well on the recruiting trail.
I couldn't even turn on the game.
I was gonna say, if we come to indoors and I see Coach Tucker break out a Fortnite dance, it's over. It's all done right there.
I couldn't, you know, I couldn't do anything. But I know they like it. I know they like it.
No, of course.
But, I mean, you get guys, you know, I mean, Kyle Seelig played tennis his entire career like there was gold at the end of the rainbow, and it's you know, great guy, great captain, great person, overachieved. But you look at Kyle Seelig, and it was tough on him. He takes a red shirt to start because, you know, Joyce and Tubert's games translate. Even though Seelig could have been ranked ahead of them coming in, they all came in together. Those guys' games translated a little bit to college tennis because they were holding serve at a higher clip than Kyle was coming in. But, you know, it's hard to say that Joyce or Tubert had a better career than Seelig, and they got to play as freshmen, and Seelig had the red shirt. I mean, he was maybe one game. He had Seagoin on the ropes a little bit. I guess I shouldn't say he was lost 4 in the third, but he probably had Seagoin from North Carolina, and Seelig was giving him a battle for the All-American at NCAA's last year in the second round. That was a great tennis match. I mean, it was close.
Speaking of ceiling, Coach, 2 questions. A, have you ever had another guy with hands smaller than Selig's? And B, what grip size does he use?
Yes, we did have a guy, Illa von Engelen, had smaller hands because we called him Burger King hands. If you remember from the old Whopper, the guy with the small hands. Yeah, so we called him that. Yeah, the Burger King hands, Illa von Engelen. But Selig's got some, Selig's good. Got the baby rhino.
Does he use a small grip size with it, or does he?
Yes, he's got it. Yes. He's got a small grip. He's got a small. Now things are getting weird on the show.
No, I was gonna say, but
I watched him play. He's definitely got huge huevos, Coach. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And again, we mentioned, for you last year, that national indoor title, you guys won the second of your career. And then, ultimately you guys lose, I believe it was in the quarterfinals to North Carolina. And I'm curious for you at this point, because you've made national finals, you've won national indoors, but obviously that one thing eluding you, that national title. And I'm afraid to ask this question as I get into it. But Coach, as you approach this year, you've talked about the depth of college tennis, 4 through 20. A lot of these teams so good. There's a Big Ten team this year. Michigan, obviously, I love, but Illinois brings back so much talent as well, and they're right up there with you guys. As you head into the 2020 season, do you guys set goals from the get-go? Is it, win the Big Ten title, compete for a national title, or is it one of those day-in, day-out approaches?
I mean, seniors have the best. Seniors have the best years and to overachieve, and whatever that is, that's where it leads us. But that's always been the 2 goals: the seniors have their best years, and we overachieve. And if we can do that, it's been a pretty good recipe. Obviously, you want to say you want to win the Big Ten, but I just feel if every guy that's out there overachieves, plays a level better than he should be playing, and that seniors have their best years, the guys that have been there the longest are still dialed in. Tennis is still the fun part of the day. They should be having their best years, and if they have their best years, we're going to be successful.
No, without a doubt. And I'm curious for you, last year, the new round of 16 format, you guys got to host Columbia. And that was a really fun match last year for your team. Obviously, you guys ended up winning it 4-1. But what did you think about them switching the format to teams, the top 8 seeds, getting to host round of 16s? And obviously, you guys had a ton of success last year, so you probably didn't have to worry about it. But is that something you factor in, is being able to host?
I don't like change, so I wasn't really into it, but Columbia gave us a scare. They were good. What a battle. It was great. We had 700-800 people there, so it was nice for guys get to play at home. But, another close match, another tight match. Anything can happen. But, I like the way it was when I played. 16 best teams went to Athens. It's kind of like a final sight. You get to go there. It's almost like what a great season you've had. You're at the final site, and I think it's pretty cool for all the guys. And I just think that top 8, sometimes you're going to have to play a heck of a schedule. And I think the people with the best schedules with a few wins can find themselves in that top 8, because now it's becoming more and more important to just play everybody you can. Because I mean, if you're 9th, you're going to, we didn't win 201 matches in a row at home because it's easy to win on the road. So if you're the 9th seed, you're going to the 8th seed, and it's going to be hard for you to be favored on somebody else's court. So, I thought that the 7-10 matchup, the 8-9 matchup, the 6-11 matchup, I thought those matches on a neutral site were kind of a pick 'em. But nowadays, it's interesting to see, how it shakes out in the next 2 or 3 years when you look back at it and, see who's hosting all the time and what they're doing to host.
Without question, yeah. And you mentioned that I think it was the 8-9 and the 7-10 were the only 2 home teams to have lost. I think it was USC lost to UNC, and then obviously Chris's Mississippi State Bulldogs lost to TCU. So yeah, I like that, though, that you not a fan of the change. That's right out of Ed Nagel's mouth. I've definitely heard him say those exact same words, Coach.
I just don't like the change in anything, so it's it's tough, but you just go with it, and sometimes it's better, sometimes it isn't. I wasn't a big fan of no ad scoring, but It's pretty darn exciting for the people who do come to the match, and they can watch a good tennis match in under 2.5 hours. And I think the fans appreciate it maybe more than the coaches. And I wonder if there's some coaches that have been fired in the past that know the exact 7 deuce points that they lost that led to them being fired.
Oh, no, without a doubt. Well, you talk about that age interchange, and, usually I like to end with the goals question, but I was listening, Coach, and it's seniors overachieve, and wherever that takes us, that's where we go. And I'm sure also beat Michigan, make Alex eat it, is in there somewhere as well. But
that is never on the board. That is never on the board. Make Alex eat it. No, that hasn't made it.
Oh, well, we'll work towards it, Coach. That's a 2020s goal for me, to get on that board. But
that's great. Keep jinxing us against Clemson. You'll be there.
Of course. Hey, I was at that. We took the doubles point from you at that Big Ten tournament. It was great. I was rocking.
I don't know why you'd be rocking. That's just regular day. I mean, that's just blocking and tackling. I mean, it's tough to win tennis matches. Michigan's darn good. Illinois is darn good. Indiana, Iowa. I mean, they're good teams. Penn State. I mean, playing tough tennis on the road. Sometimes in that indoor tennis, the court speed differs from 50% from where you play to where you're playing the next match, and you've got to get ready for it real quick. I tell you, nothing's easy. Michigan,
no.
Good.
Yeah, good. Without a doubt. And again,
if you want to take a year off after 14 straight titles, throw us one. I'm down. But with that in mind, I do want to do one last thing with you. It's something we've been doing with all of our coaches recently. Since we've had you on before, in lieu of the rapid fire, I do have some proposed changes to college tennis. And I'm going to tell you off the bat, you're going to find them stupid. But may I entertain you with them?
Let's go.
All right, so I think one of the stupidest things that we do in tennis is the coin toss. It's dumb. I want our guys competing from the moment they step on the court. So, Coach, in lieu of coin tosses, from the get-go, you have 2 options. I would rather see on all 6 flights, rock, paper, scissors between the 2 flights. I want to be there when you and Kronagi and Schilling are saying, hey guys, 34% of the time people throw paper, so I want to see you all throwing scissors. And we just, from the get-go, the competing starts. Or we have, at the start of the matches, the 2 head coaches play out a point, and the winner of the point gets to choose who serves on each court. Do either of those appeal to you?
For sure. I like both of them. I just don't know if, that's how we settle some calls. Sometimes when there's big matches and inter-squad matches going on and some challenges and there's a call and we're not going to jump in and overrule. Sometimes we have a staring contest and the first person who blanks loses. So I like it. I like where you're at.
Finally, a coach in favor. I mean, I would watch you and Steinberg play a set. I'm in.
The guy wants to see people die.
You'd have to ditch the sweats, Coach.
We'd have to have oxygen. We'd have to have a lot of things.
That'd be fun.
My other one, and this is slightly more serious, moving all individual stuff, NCAA singles and doubles, to the fall, and then leaving all of the team stuff for the spring. I know that's been kicked around before. What do you think about that?
I'm up for anything as long as it doesn't take more days. You've got to remember one thing in the NCAA. I think an individual sport is allowed 144 days a year, a team sport to practice with their coach, and I think a team sport's allowed 132 days. So if moving that to the fall ends up kicking us up to being known as a team sport as opposed to an individual sport, then I'm against it. I want the 144. I want the 12 extra days because I feel we've lost a lot of days. I think we've lost time, obviously with the student athlete welfare and the things, out of season in the fall, we've lost a decent amount of time from when I originally started 24 years ago. And, I just don't want to be kicked down to be known as a team sport and lose 12 more days because I think, coaching college tennis, I like to get great players, but I also love to be out there, mixing it up on the court and practicing. It's what I like to do. So, to lose more days, I'm against that.
So, Coach, I've got one last one for you on behalf of my glorious co-host here. If I set the over-under at 3.5, over-under the number of times you've heard Gruskin say McNally hooked him in juniors.
I mean, I would have to say I might have to go under.
Oh no!
I have to go under. I might have to go under. You probably told a lot of other people that than me. You probably told Coach Dancer. You probably get on there and gossip it up, man. Probably trying to give them scouting reports on it and things like that. Well, I would vote that more than over under. I would go with that more.
Well, y'all throwing a plug here. We had Katie
Sending
McNally.
videos of matches to people. Yeah,
We had Katie McNally on the podcast, and I did bring it up with her. Although I'll say he was up 6-0, 2-1. Like, he could have given me that second game, but that's, again, we've litigated that story enough.
Sounded like you wanted him.
Yeah. No, I didn't. It was for 2-all, and then I double faulted 3 in a row. So the gods don't lie, right? Obviously that match wasn't for me. But all right, last two for you because I know you have an appreciation for tennis history. I asked this to Coach Shelton. I'll ask you as well. Me being a modern player, 2-star recruit coach, whatever that means for you. You would have redshirt me year 1 for sure. You probably redshirt me year 2 as well. Get them both out there. But you put me with all I know about the modern game and my modern Prince Graphite racket back in time. How many decades back do you have to go to where I would become a multi-time Grand Slam champion, and we may be calling it, Alex Gruskin Stadium instead of Arthur Ashe?
1830. I mean, before the Civil War, probably.
Can we get an applause sound, Bill? That's all. Thank you.
I mean, first of all, you're probably not putting the ball in the court enough if you're just a 2-star. So I don't know if that's going to help you going back in time if you can't put the ball in between the lines.
Are you telling me Don Budge sees my two-handed backhand and he doesn't go, what was that? He's like, are you serious?
Don Budge probably was 19-something. I'm talking 1830, my man. I mean, that's Ulysses S. Grant. That's who he was playing.
Yeah, he'll be hammered, and I'll just be taking advantage of it. It'll be
probably you're winning because he spent 4 years in war and didn't play at all while you were practicing.
I just say they're all serving and volleying, and I'm hitting top spin ground strokes, and they'd be like, "What? You can do that?" And I'd be like, "Dude, just wait till you find out about synthetic gut strings. Like, it's gonna blow your mind." No, you might be right, Coach.
Round of 16 quarters.
I like it. And then my last one for you, and I'm expecting a cop-out answer, but it's as part of our Best of the Decade series. It's 2019. We've looked back at the past 10 years of college tennis, and obviously there are a ton of phenomenal Buckeye teams over these past 10 years, a ton of phenomenal college tennis teams in general. If I were to ask you, name the best college tennis team you saw over the past 10 years, who would you nominate?
Shame. Over the last 10 years, best? Not Ohio State, just best.
Yeah, non-Ohio. It can be non-Ohio State if that's easy.
It has to be. We don't have a title, so.
Well, you have 2 indoor titles, so I'm going to agree to disagree.
Thank you, because Gruskin keeps trying to make a case for one of his Virginia teams that didn't win, and I keep telling him, if you win the title, you can't be in the conversation.
No, you're wrong. That 2011 team was so good.
We'll just call the Buckeye football team the best in the country this year.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. I'm with you now. Okay, sure. Right. You have to have that.
But God, it'd have to have Stevie Johnson fair. I guy who got the 30 in the world and the guy who got the 1 in the world in doubles. It'd have to have some combination of Stevie Johnson and Farah in there. I mean, I'm too far. I'm trying to. I think they're a little bit better. Yeah. I think they were a little better. Probably that 2011 USC team. Probably 2012.
Yeah.
Stevie Johnson was a junior or senior, I bet.
Yeah, Quiroz and Gomez. And,
Nguyen and Ray.
You've got a guy that got top 30 in the world in singles, a guy that got the 1 in the world in doubles, 2 guys in Quiroz and Yannick Hanfman and and Gomez, who all 3 were in the top 200, and then Daniel Nguyen, who's still playing.
Yeah, of course, and Sarmiento.
Yeah, sorry, Ray. Sorry I forgot about you.
Yeah, that's a really good team. I would say this: your 2011 team with Buchanan, Rolla, Cobelt, McCarthy. I think. I want to say
D-Mac was good. At the end of his career, D-Mac was good.
Yeah,
Devin McCarthy was good.
Yeah, that 2011 season, there were some really good teams. I've watched the highlights too many times. So, yeah, I agree with you. Again, it's close
I
for
would
me.
say Farrah's senior year, they were probably whatever. I would have to say that was – Farrah was playing 1. Stevie Johnson was playing 2 as a freshman. No, he was playing 3 as a freshman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think Lucasen was at 2.
I would. Now, what else? What other team would you guys say?
Well, so here's my case for the 2011 UVA team. Undefeated through the finals of NCAA.
Don't give me that. Just give me the lineup. Line up.
So,
just give it to me.
Okay, Shabazz, Damajan, Sanam Singh, Jameer Jenkins, healthy Drew Courtney, and either Julian Uruguin or Justin Shane. That team is freaking good.
What does healthy Drew Courtney mean?
It means before he broke his foot in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, my God. So now we've got, that's
or 2013
I don't think you can do. Okay, give me the lineup.
Jarmir, Damajan, Mitchell Frank, either Ryan Shane, I think, played 4, Justin played 5, Julian played 6. NCAA champs. Undefeated.
Yeah, that's definitely a team that's right up there.
Damajan over Cobelt, 7-6 in the third, national indoor semifinals. We all remember the match.
I don't. Not even sure it happened.
That team's really good. There were a lot of really good teams, is why this was such a fun exercise, because I would agree with you when you said I think college tennis, it just gets better and better.
Yeah, you're opening up old wounds, that's for sure. I've got a couple scars. But, no, some good teams. College tennis has been good. Great coaches. I just tell you, everybody's working hard. Everybody's hustling. Everybody's got a plan. And it's amazing to see. And I think college tennis is moving in the right direction. It's unbelievable to see the run that Kopfer's had up to the top 100 in the world from Tulane. And, just to watch some of these guys make their move, and it's college tennis is it's unbelievable. It's just too bad that we just can't find a way, to get more people to the matches, because when they do come, they come back.
I completely agree with you. I would also do a full decade pod on how Chris Diaz and Kevin Metka got really freaking good, despite aesthetically just crushing looking strokes. 2 of my favorite players to watch throughout the decade as well. It's very fun. And it's a testament of, obviously, again, when we were doing the exercise, there were a bunch of Ohio State teams nominated. I'll have to send you the list, Coach, of who we threw in there as well. But, Coach Tucker, thank you so much for taking the time, entertaining all of our nonsense. Happy New Year to you and your Buckeyes. And, of course, good luck as you prepare for the 2020 season.
Guys, you're good guys, man. I appreciate the time, and hope to see you down the road.
Of course, can I get a Go Bucks from you?
Go Bucks. Oh, you're trying to get me like that coach for LSU, trying to play me like that now, huh?
Tigers.
Yeah, but take care, Coach.
Have a good one.
Hope you enjoyed our conversation with the one and only Ohio State men's tennis head coach, Ty Tucker. Chris, yeah, he didn't hold back, did he?
No, not at all. Anybody that can get you to say you're not listening to me very well, are you? I think Coach Tucker he must have had a little pregame talk with Coach Boland on how to throw the digs in your way, and it worked out very well. I appreciate that, Coach.
I feel like it's actually not. I feel like a lot of people would be like, "Are you actually listening ever, Alex?" And so I feel like you know that. When have I ever listened to you, Chris? You and Matt will be talking, and I'll be like, "No, I'm going to talk about this now." But no, I agree. Coach Tucker, again, that it's his third time coming on the podcast, that he's willing to come onto the podcast after I jinx his Ohio State Buckeyes in their game against Clemson. They're up 16-0, and I texted him. I was like, this is the best team I've ever seen, and obviously we know how that game ended. So, really appreciate Coach Tucker taking the time, and of course we want to wish him and his Buckeyes, despite them being Buckeyes, success as they head into the 2020 season. Chris, on a side note, I feel like I get a bad rep now for being more biased than I actually am. True or false?
Oh, false. Come on. I think you're more biased than your rep. I mean, it's exactly the opposite. Come on.
Well, I feel like I root for all of these teams, right? Except for there are teams I don't root for. We're not going to say the names out loud because we may or may not be interviewing those head coaches pretty soon. But yeah, there's
a whole list of 2.
No, I love Wake Forest and I love Texas. Never mind. I'm not going to get into whatever. Yes, I love every team equally and fairly and under the law. I'm supposed to say that, but that's not, except for the Wolverines, whom I love just a shade, and the Who's, obviously, whom I love just a shade above everyone else. And Coach, you're right, I'm very biased. It was false. But, we are obviously so thrilled, as we mentioned. I think we're 8 coaches up, 8 coaches down, Chris, and that leaves us 2 left, the top 2 teams to end last year, the national title participants, obviously the runners-up in Wake Forest, and, of course, 2019 national title team, Texas, where we will have both Coaches Bresky and Coach Burke. I believe one of those 2 interviews have been scheduled already, but we'll try and get them both in the book soon. Obviously, the accompanying podcast to this, our mini break podcast, myself, Chris, Matt Stakowiak, breaking down the teams, giving our thoughts on how we project their seasons moving forward. And I think the one tidbit, Chris, to really take from Coach Tucker is he seems to think what we all have been preaching over the courses of those mini breaks is, there may be 2 or 3 teams that stand out as really, really talented this year, but from 4 to 20 in college tennis this year, the parity has never been greater.
Yeah, and I think the list up top's even grown bigger probably than 3, but yeah, he's right. There's so many teams once you get past that first tier that it's kind of, there's a big group where you just kind of throw them up. I'm not sure it goes so far down as 20, right? But 20 is still very, very good. And yeah, on their home court on any given day, could they jump up and fight you? Sure. But yeah, it's great to see that many good teams. And as he said, it's a testament to how hard the coaches work at recruiting and how hard it is to get these kids these days. It's not like you can just find a sleeper under a rock somewhere very often. Everybody knows about everybody in this day and age.
I completely agree with you. And again, a team we're not going to talk about, we can do this at the end. This is a little sneak preview for a topic we'll do, but teams we're not going to discuss in this preview, like Illinois. I feel like there's a world where Illinois ends 2020 as the national champs. That's not outlandish.
I think I didn't hear something right there. I'm not sure. Sorry.
No, I went without. See, again, I don't listen. Maybe you don't listen, Chris. No, I'm saying there's a world where Illinois ends up as the national champs this year, and they're not a top 10 team, and I think that speaks to the parity, or at least maybe that's in my mind. But couldn't you see it?
Yeah. No, I really did hear you. I was just saying I don't think I heard something right there, Alex. So yeah, and with my apologies to Coach Dancer, but no, that's not going to happen.
Oh, that's an early. You're telling me Kova, AB up top. They bring back. All right, we're not going to litigate this right now. You're absolutely right. But again, huge shout out to Coach Tucker for taking the time to come on the podcast. Huge shout out, as always, to our super producers Max Fligner and Daniel Westoff, who keep you guys up to date with all of our podcasts, and as always, have a of an editing job to do. Again, 2 teams left down the home stretch, just Wake Forest and Texas, and of course for the Ohio State podcast, you can go check out our mini break feed for our best of the decade, best college teams of the decade. It hasn't been recorded yet. It's going to be recorded in the 2020s, but screw it. I don't care. If you don't care, listeners, that will be on the horizon soon on our Great Shot podcast feed. And of course, for all of that content, you can check out our website, crackrackets.com, the more immediate updates, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But But with that being said, for my wonderful co-host Chris Halliors, for our fantastic guest, Ohio State men's tennis head coach Ty Tucker, and for our super producers Max Fligner and Daniel Westhoff, and from our entire teams at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host Alex Gruskin. I now remember that there is no specific outro line on this podcast, so I will just say we will see you all next week. Thanks, Chris, as always.